Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. Now this week, it was all about upward momentum. As the rest of 2014 continues to drop away, the new hits of 2015 are rising to take their place, whether we want them to or not. Plus with the continued onslaught of Christmas music and of course The Voice, the biggest surprise arrivals on this list came from the biggest album of the week on the Billboard 200, that debuted with little promotion and no open airplay. And in a nice change of pace, one of the best songs from that album is one that landed pretty high as a debut on the charts, which is pretty awesome. Now I'll elaborate more on that in a little bit, but it's time to start with our top 10. Lots of movement on here this week. Well, okay, outside of the top 2, that is. Unsurprisingly, Blank Space by Taylor Swift has a stranglehold on number 1, thanks to finally taking the top in airplay to match her dominance in sales on YouTube. But Hozier's Take Me to Church isn't going down without a fight, with steady airplay gains supplementing strong sales and absolutely monstrous streaming. Yet, right below him, we got Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson and Bruno Mars, reaching a new peak at number 3, with a very similar pattern to Hozier that they're just waiting for airplay to catch up to strong sales and streaming. And at number 4, we got Lips Are Moving by Meghan Trainor, who owes most of her success to YouTube, with only decent streaming and sales keeping her solid as her airplay slowly starts to pick up. And with the first movement in 3 weeks for this song, we've got I'm Not the Only One by Sam Smith stepping up to number 5, a new peak for the song, who really owes his success to just being consistent across the board, and those above him losing a fair amount of steam and starting to drop back. Now we'll get to those in a few minutes here, but now we've got to talk about our surprise new arrival to the top 10 at number 6, Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran, who really owes the majority of his success to thanks to massive streaming and YouTube, and pretty damn solid sales as his airplay struggles to catch up. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of the song. It's a little bit too sleepy, and Ed Sheeran's got better songs off of Multiply, but I've got nothing against it either, and it works for what it is, as a sincere, passionate, simple love song, and it's nice to actually see a guitar solo in the top 10. But beneath him are 2 songs that look to be on the way out, and good thing too. All About That Bass by Meghan Trainor at number 7, and Animals by Maroon 5 at number 8. Effectively, this is for the same reasons too, hemorrhaging airplay and weaker numbers across the board, with only YouTube giving Meghan Trainor the slightest bit of an edge. Love Me Harder by Ariana Grande in The Weeknd steps up to number 9, holding steady thanks to consistent airplay gains and huge streaming, even despite a pretty weak sales week, which leaves Shake It Off by Taylor Swift to cling down to number 10, pretty much on YouTube alone. I can see the song dropping off the top 10 next week, unless it somehow manages to get a boost. Trust me there. Next up, we've got our dropouts and our losers, and there's a fair number of the former. 0 to 100, The Catch Up by Drake, Day Drinking by Little Big Town, and thankfully, Burn It Down by Jason Aldean all dropped to the recurring list, but I by Kendrick Lamar and Look at You by Big and Rich lost even more steam to drop off after even less weeks on the chart, and it looks like there's a few more on a similar path. Fireball by Pitbull featuring John Ryan drops to number 88, Yellow Flicker Beat by Lorde continues its tumble down to 86 as more people start to forget about the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, and mercifully the disaster that I spoke at length on in a special comment, That'd Be God Made Girls by Ray Lim, drops back to number 71. Only wish that I could claim some degree of credit for it. As for the other losers, there are only 2 major drops. Make It Rain by Ed Sheeran, unsurprising given it's a song tied to Sons of Anarchy, and that show ended just over a week ago and people have short memories, and Mary Did You Know by Pentatonix. And I would be surprised if this song dropped again, especially given it is the Christmas season and it's a Christmas song, but it's been bouncing around up and down since its debut, so no real surprise there. And speaking of Christmas, let's take a look at our gainers, 2 of which owe all of their success to the holidays. Mariah Carey unsurprisingly rises 10 slots to number 40 with All I Want for Christmas Is You, and Ariana Grande leads back up to 64 with Santa Tell Me. And in other less obvious examples of holiday cheer, Carrie Underwood continues in Finding Jesus with Something in the Water rising to number 38. Blake Shelton and Ashley Monroe sing about exes trying to find some solace together on Lonely Tonight, jumping up to considerably to number 54. Usher's I Don't Mind continues its steady climb to number 37 by not judging a woman who's a stripper, always a nice sentiment. And I Live by One Republic has that general uplifting feel, so I'm guessing that's why it jumped up to number 67. Along with Heroes We Could Be by Alesso featuring Tove Lo bouncing up to number 35. The latter proving that EDM isn't quite dead yet in the mainstream, so I guess there's that. Yet there are other songs that got a boost that have significantly less holiday cheer and are significantly less good. GDFR by Flo Rida featuring Siege the Gemini and Lucas gains number 87 despite being the blatant talk dirty ripoff that it is. And Just Getting Started by Jason Aldean goes up to number 84 because well, I don't know, Burn It Down is gone and the charts need something from Jason Aldean to replace it, so they grab some bro country trash. And yet, worst of all, Only by Nicki Minaj featuring Drake, Lil Wayne, and Chris Brown rocketed up to number 12. That's right, this is within spitting distance of the top 10. You know what? I'm gonna keep this very quick here. Nicki Minaj is the only redeeming feature of the song. The synth line is painfully, pathetically underweight. Every single guest star embarrasses themselves, especially Drake probably sounding the worst, and it's easily the worst track on the Pink Print, and single-handedly is responsible for knocking that album back a few points. It is an atrocious track coasting by on cheap gossip and controversy in order to be successful. And the fact that Nicki put this garbage on her main standard album instead of Win Again or Truffle Butter, the latter of which it has Drake and Lil Wayne on it, is a sign that Young Money's management need their heads examined, preferably with 2x4s. But okay, ignoring that piece of shit, let's talk about our 2 recurring entries.
Dig the way that you move, you shake it down to your roots. How did your mama teach you how to do that thing you do?
Oh, wow, I didn't expect this. I've never really been a fan of Darius Rucker or his former band Hootie and the Blowfish. They were the sort of adult alternative act that bored the piss out of me and generally catered to those who wanted the least threatening music possible. So Darius Rucker transitioning to make country music didn't exactly surprise me. But you know what? Wagon Wheel was a damn good song, mostly because it was co-written by Bob Dylan, but still. This though, oh wow, talk about selling out. From the incredibly clean and sterile production to the by-the-numbers forgettable songwriting, the features repeating words to fill up space for no good reason, to Darius Rucker trying to add some swagger to his voice and failing miserably. This is desperation personified in a song. Darius Rucker trying to leap on the bro country bandwagon. This is the end of 2014, let's get real here. And outside of a few exceptions, bro country has effectively collapsed. It's over. This, I'm sorry, this is just embarrassing for everybody involved. Next. Yeah, I can't even lie here. I actually think this song is pretty damn good, regardless of whether it's about Harry Styles or not. It's got that retro old school glam vibe that Lana Del Rey keeps trying for and keeps failing, but this time Taylor Swift brings in that tight 80s synth pop guitar line that actually carries a melody throughout the song, a really punchy beat, and actually giving a surprisingly passionate vocal performance. Yes, there are elements of self-love to this song, but it's also balanced out by both partners in the relationship recognizing their own faults and screw-ups. There's balance and nuance to this relationship on display, and you know what? I can appreciate that. This song gets a pass from me. Okay, so we're now on to our list of new arrivals, most of which I've already talked about in some capacity, which hopefully means this will be pretty easy and pretty quick. Starting out, number 100, Break the Rules by Charli XCX.
Across the world, put it on our dancing shoes, going to the discotheque, getting high and getting wrecked. I don't wanna go to school, I just wanna break the rules.
Now, I've already talked at length about this song in my Sucker review earlier this week, but I will say it's got one of the better melodies from that record, especially in the synth breakdown right after the chorus. But as much as I like parts of this song, there are still problems with it. The EDM crescendo over the chorus always feels a little bit overstuffed to me and detracts from a pretty damn solid textured bass line. And lyrically, okay, seriously, discotheque? Who says that of that age? And seriously, if that's her definition of breaking the rules, putting on her dancing shoes and going to the discotheque, I'm not all that impressed. Number 98, When I Was Your Man by Chris Jamison.
Should've gave you all my hours when I had the chance. Take you to every party, 'cause all you wanted to do was dance.
We got a lot of piano ballads in 2013, and When I Was Your Man by Bruno Mars was one of the better ones. Pretty basic to be sure, but filled with genuine regret for being a shitty boyfriend, and Bruno Mars does a lot to sell it. But honestly, I might like Chris Jamison's version even more. The thinner piano tone, the fragments of organ, and Jamison just throws himself into the song with a ton of passion, and that falsetto line, I'll be honest here, it was impressive. And not surprising, this guy actually managed to end up in the finals, only to lose, but you know what? We'll get to that. Number 95, No Role Models by J.Cole.
Time for my LA hoes. Lame niggas can't tell the difference. difference. One time for a nigga who knows. Don't save her, she don't wanna be saved. Don't save her, she don't wanna be saved. Don't save her, she don't wanna be saved. Don't save her, she don't wanna be saved.
Of the two J. Cole songs that landed on the charts this week, this is definitely the weaker one, and it highlights a lot of the problems that I had with 2014 Forest Hills Drive, especially with J. Cole's issues with women. Yeah, there's self-awareness in the song about how thin his fame might feel being a B-list celebrity and how women wouldn't talk to him otherwise. And yeah, it's got a pretty damn slick melody line, but it also highlights the incredibly shaky moral high ground on which J. Cole is standing. For as much as he rants about not wanting reality show starlets, he's still screwing them anyway and behaving like a condescending dick about it to boot, spending most of the outro calling her shallow when he can just be as shallow. Sure, it's the life that she chose. Hell, it's the life he chose too. And he tries to justify it by saying no role models, but with the self-awareness undercutting the track, it doesn't justify his actions, and it really bugs me when he ends his verse with the shout, Martin Luther King would have been on Dreamville. Okay, yeah, evoking one of the most important figures in the civil rights movement on your track about calling women shallow, self-awareness or not, that makes you look like an asshole. The more I hear this song, the less I like it. In this case, I'd probably skip it. Number 93, Come Join the Murder by the White Buffalo and the Forest Rangers.
Come fly with black, we'll give you freedom from the human trap. Come join the murder, soar on my wings.
Okay, we got another song from Sons of Anarchy on the chart, and unlike Make It Rain, this is more on the country side of folk, and it's less of a murder ballad than a song about falling to temptation thanks to the darkness in oneself, sort of like Come With Me Now by Congos. And yet, the tone in this song is a little bit weird to me. A lot of the major chords in the chorus melody, reasonably clean guitar tones, the backing vocals coming in the later choruses, it just feels a little bit too upbeat. Not as dark as one would expect for the subject material. Solid guitar solo and some good texture to the song to be sure, and the songwriting does have some power behind it, but I think it could have afforded to go just a little bit darker. It does feel a little bit long and stretched out. Still a good song, let me stress this, but it could have been great. Number 90, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas by Sam Smith.
Together, if the fates allow.
Okay, when you think about Christmas singers to evoke a joyful atmosphere of holiday cheer, Sam Smith would not be the artist topping any of my list. That said, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is one of the better choices as a Christmas song for him, as it can be played with more of a melancholy touch, which he does do. As it is, okay look, I'm not a Sam Smith fan, I didn't review his album. He's got a good voice, but he's got a certain austerity to his delivery that lacks a lot of real driving soul to me, which means that even by the standards of depressing Christmas songs, this doesn't really do a lot for me. Sorry. Number 81, Make It Rain by Matt McAndrew.
Make it rain down, Lord. Make it rain. Make it rain.
I already talked about this song last week when it was covered by Ed Sheeran, so with its sudden success, I wasn't surprised to see it land on The Voice. And yet, it doesn't work nearly as well, mostly because Matt McAndrew's voice or instrumentation doesn't have that snarl or raw potency to make it all that gripping for me. I can see it playing a little bit closer to gospel, but Ed Sheeran's rougher, more hollow production was just a lot better fit for the song. In other words, McAndrew's cover fails because it's something that he really can't control. He's on a reality show designed to appeal to the mass public. You can't have grime there, and what was once a song accompanied with a grimy show about a biker gang becomes neutered as a result. In other words, not all that great. I'd skip it. Number 73, Wet Dreams by J. Cole.
And I ain't never did this before, no. 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 I ain't never did this before, no. And I ain't never did this before, no. And I ain't never did.
See, this is what I was looking for. This is so much better, and it gets there by being a much better representation of J. Cole at his best. I've already talked about this song extensively when I reviewed 2014 Forest Hills Drive, so I'll restate what I said before. One of the best songs on the album that works thanks to a great old school beat and melody, and J. Cole's deeper, more vulnerable songwriting and a story about losing his virginity. The details are what makes this song work as well as it does. You can buy this high school story about him trying to be a big shot to win over a girl, even though he was a virgin, only to realize that she was relying on him to do the exact exact same thing. It's the sort of aggressively real song that you rarely ever see on the Hot 100, and the fact that this song landed while J. Cole's actual single apparently from the album didn't even crack the chart, it's very telling. Damn great song, hope it actually does well here. And finally, number 59, The Rugged Old Cross by Craig Wade Boyd.
I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown.
Okay, there's a bit of a story behind the song, which was written over 100 years ago by George Bernard, and has held up as a reliable country gospel standard that's been covered by dozens of artists, from Johnny Cash to Al Green, from George Jones to Merle Haggard, from Alan Jackson to Brad Paisley. So after listening to a whole slew of these covers before checking out Craig Wade Boyd, the best of the covers being a toss-up between Al Green and Alan Jackson, how does this turn out? Well, considering it's a country gospel song being played on network television, about as well as you could expect. It's not surprising Craig Wade Boyd won The Voice, because he's one of the few singers who actually has vocal texture, but I can't say I love the overstated vocals or bombast on his cover with all the belting. Granted, I preferred over Merle Haggard's downbeat monologue over one of the verses, but you know what, there's a middle ground, and I'm not sure this song gets there. Guy's got an incredible voice there, so overall fine song. So that's our week. Overall, pretty damn good week for new chart arrivals, which makes the choice of my favorite this week a little bit tricky. Well, hell, who am I kidding? Despite my harsh words, Wet Dreams by J. Cole easily walks away with it here, with the runner-up probably being Style by Taylor Swift. Worst, it's no contest. Darius Rucker's ridiculous and embarrassing stab at bro country with Homegrown Honey, with Matt McAndrew not managing to follow Ed Sheeran's lead with Make It Rain. Overall though, I can't complain about this list, and let's hope it's a good sign of weeks to come. Although, knowing what I do in terms of album tracks that will probably chart next week, I doubt that. But we'll wait until next week to find out. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.